Good morning, guys. Welcome to Leadership Development. The topic is how to be interesting. I don't know what page it is. Who can help me out? 108. 108. Y'all always come in the clutch. I never know. I'm sorry. Well, like I said, welcome to Leadership Development. Y'all, I'm so excited. I think y'all know why. I got two friends in the building, Lydia and Star. Give it up for them. Woo. How much you pay? Like $30 for your Frontier flight or something like that? That means a lot. I know you care for me. Didn't have no carry-on, no luggage. Fit it in her purse. That's what I'm talking about. Man, if you haven't gotten a chance, like Chase said yesterday, to meet them, I would do so. They're really great. Clearly, they spent $30 to come see me. So for my birthday tomorrow, woo-woo, Tobias too, and Becca G. Wow. This is going to be a lit next few days. But yeah, like I said, if you haven't gotten a chance to meet Lydia, Star, they're pretty great. They've sharpened me so much, have shaped the woman I am now, and I'm real thankful that y'all here. So she's not even listening. Love you. That was my speech this morning for you. But yeah, so this morning we're going to be talking about how to be interesting. So by a show of hands, who in here thinks that they're interesting, would say that they're an interesting person? Wow, 5 people. What makes you interesting? Like, have you ever thought about that? You like to fish? Okay. What else? Throw something. You like to throw hands? You do. Oh, dance. Okay. I thought you said throw hands. I was like, Kayla, it's 9 a.m. No fighting. Yeah, but have you ever thought about that? Like, what makes someone interesting? I've been really struggling to write this talk because I'm like, what does it mean to be interesting? How do I do that? I'm not even interesting. Chase made that clear when he called me out a few days ago. I'm just kidding. But I do have a funny story, an interesting story. So in college, my freshman year, I was what you would call just over the top. As you probably can see that now, but I was very over the top, I think, always trying to get involved in different things, always engaging different kinds of people, hanging out at all the different social events, trying to work out like crazy, things that freshmen would do, I guess, going to different parties, traveling to so many colleges. I think I went to maybe 12 colleges my freshman year, to visit friends. It was insane. Which probably said a lot about my grades. They were probably awful. But I was a busy bee. I really was. I don't remember sleeping at all, which is really crazy. I think I was probably really crazy. But I think when I look back now, I would say that I feel like all my striving and thinking I was more interesting was primarily centered around me. Me, myself, and I. That's a song by Beyonce, by the way. But I would just say I wasn't considering others. I thought I was interesting because I was, running around doing crazy stuff, being engaged and I don't know, just making decisions that were centered on TORI. I wasn't engaging people that I didn't know. None of my decisions were motivated by anyone else other than myself. And I think that's okay. I think that that's really counter to the culture for our decisions and for us to consider others and think about people. But I would actually say what's sweet about the gospel and the beauty about the gospel is that it actually says that we're called to live counter to the culture, that we're supposed to be imitators of Christ. And so what I want to do differently this morning really is talk about how to be interesting, but I want to do so as an imitator of Christ. So that's the catch, how to be interesting. Yeah, we can juggle, we can do all these different things, but I want to talk about how to be interesting as a follower of Jesus. Sound good? Can we dive in? Y'all get it? I'm real nervous. Let me pray, because that's all I know what to do if I'm nervous. So pray with me. God, thank you for this morning. God, whether we got little sleep or lots of sleep, God, I'm thankful that you meet us all here today. God, any feelings we may have coming into this time, whether we're anxious, we're nervous, we're confused, or we just don't really want to be here, God, I pray that, God, you would move in our hearts, and that would play out in the way that we live our lives today, and for the rest of our lives. So, God, I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak. I pray, God, that you would increase, I would decrease, and Holy Spirit, would you move? In Jesus' name, amen. So I got the first slide up here. Interesting people. I think that's kind of my tagline is what I'm saying, that interesting people are interested people. Dun, dun, dun. So if there's something you want to write down, I'll write that down. And honestly, the 6 things, I'm going to give you guys 6 ways or 6 points on how to be interesting or interested. And I think a lot of these are things you already know. I'm just trying to drive them home again so y'all can begin praying and asking God, like, God, how can you grow me to be a more interesting or interested person as an imitator or follower of Christ? And so, again, these things you're gonna be like, oh, I know that. So I just want to drive some of these things home again. So first point, be a growing learner. I'm sure all of us in here would say, like, yeah, I like to learn. Or if you wouldn't say that, you'd be like, I learn. Like, I'm here in a summer project. I'm learning things. But I think, I don't know if you all would agree with this, but I think one thing that I have grown to realize in my own life is that if you're not learning new things or gaining a better understanding of the things that you know, you probably don't have much to impart on other people. And so what I mean by that is, as you're learning new things or you're gaining better understanding of things, like, you're going to be able to engage like more people on the topics that you're learning or you're growing a better understanding of. And I think as a follower of Christ too, I believe one of our hopes here on earth is to influence people, right? I think we will all say that. Influence them, encourage them, and to help others grow in their walk with God. And so how can we do that effectively if we aren't storing up like a deeper knowledge of things? And so again, these are things that you already know. I think the more you know about what is going on in the world, the more you can contribute to conversations. Like, think about it. Like, the more you know about topics, like, the more you're able to like sit and contribute and like engage and literally sit there for hours, like talking about things, which grows the other person too that you're engaging with. I think I'm always impressed and thankful for those people who can bring something new to conversations and like share fun facts. Like, I want to be more like that, you know? The more you're growing to learn, the better conversationalist I think you become. I think we can keep ourselves educated by reading books, right? I feel like there's a lot of people in here who love to read books, and I love that about you. I want to be more like you. Or staying up to date with current events in the news and pop culture. Like, you guys are all on college campuses. And so I think one of the most practical ways to engage someone, if you want to share the gospel, is to talk about current events, you know? And I don't even know half the stuff that's going on in the world, but I want to be a growing learner. So I want to cure my ignorance with knowledge, basically, is the way I would say. The only way to cure your ignorance is with knowledge. I think an example of this would be, I remember my junior year of college when I started to become more aware of like racial injustice that was happening around me in the world. I wanted to see change and hope and redemption, but I didn't know where to start praying. But then I was like, okay, I'm praying. I was really thankful for books and resources, conversations that I started to have with different Black and white leaders on the topic. And I feel like it just grew me tremendously and made me really thankful for the gift of like getting to develop and grow intentionally by picking up resources. So think about some of those topics that you love. Like, you probably have a better, like a growing understanding of it because you're maybe reading a book on it now, or you've listened to podcasts. Like, I know Elise loves Desiring God, like just taking advantage of like resources and things like that. That's what's going to shape you and grow you or help you become a growing learner. Watching documentaries, attending lectures on various subjects, reading books, things like that. I think too, something to be mindful of too is, I think, also remember that not all knowledge has to be gained through like a formal institution or like a weekly meeting or a summer project, like whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Like, seek out new topics on your own and ways to grow and better understanding of them. And so I think I even have this as my last point up there, that we are all naturally going to learn or take interest in things that captures our thoughts and mind, but how are you pursuing a greater perspective of it or on it? So be a growing learner. Number 2, create shared experiences. You guys have probably heard me say this a lot. I know in my Women's Times talk I did, because In other words, have fun. I like it. I love creating shared experiences. So questions like, what are the new things to do? Like, be asking yourself that, especially here in the summer project. It's like, I know it's week 7, but it's like, man, there's still so many new things to do, so many new things that can be done. I think even as you go back to campus too, like, what are new things to do? I don't think the emphasis here is that like you're busy or you have things going on in your life all the time. But I think something to think about is, and I think I have the slide up there, is are you taking advantage of times when you can say yes to unfamiliar opportunities that may arise in order to create shared experiences? And this is something I feel like I failed tremendously in. So how can we create shared experiences, you know? I think the more you do, the more stories you will have to share with others. Like literally, it's crazy, like when you encounter people and they have crazy stories to tell you and you're like, well, how did that happen? Like, oh, well, because you went out and you did, it all traced back to like them actually going to do something, and probably something they didn't expect was going to happen. So I think the best way to accumulate interesting stories is traveling, you know, constantly meeting new people, putting yourself in new and interesting conversations, situations. I love that we get to go on 16th Street. Like literally every time we go there, whether it's for missional training or not, like there's always something off the wall, like literally off the wall or crazy or funny or awkward, that a story that we hear, which I think just goes to show how different and complex each human being truly is. And so, create shared experiences. And I think my last point up there is, if this sounds like something that feels hard to you, so if I'm talking and you're like, I think maybe a challenge can be to accept the invitation the next time you're invited somewhere that is not likely something you'd want to do, or maybe even initiating or inviting someone first. So create shared experiences. Number 3, be engaged with what you do. So I know I hit on this in the beginning with my sticky thought, you know, interesting people are interested people. And sometimes, I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but I think it's true. I really do think it's true. And the reason I say it is like, I don't know, like I really do think like, man, thinking of yourself as like a sponge, like absorbing things. I'm so thankful for people who are like, man, I just want to soak everything up. Like I want to be more like that, like soaking up like the things that you're engaged with. Like if you're talking to people, soaking up the things that they have to offer or whatever they're saying, and really processing, or in the word, like be engaged with what you do. Like if I'm meeting with God, like I want to be engaged in like his word, you know, like it's not merely a checklist to kind of get through it. So think of yourself as a sponge, and each and every day absorb as much as you can in what is happening around you. I think practical things to consider also, like if you're having a conversation with somebody, like even asking yourself questions or thinking like, am I giving them my undivided attention? I feel like this kind of goes in line with that too. Again, I think a lot of these things just build like character within us. Am I making eye contact, avoiding texting or talking on the phone when I'm with others, or just different things like that. Someone I feel like who does this really well is Julie. I don't know if y'all ever encountered her, but I feel like she is always so engaged. Like literally we can be talking about like turtles, and she's like so engaged with like what we're talking about, and I'm just like, wow, I admire her a ton and want to be like her in so many ways. So I don't know, I feel like she's really, and you know how it feels like when someone's engaged with you, you know how that feels. It's like, man, I feel important, you know, like it's like, wow, I'm saying something that seems meaningful, or that they actually are giving me eye contact, they're not on their phone. I really feel like they care. I think another thing too, and it's kind of funny, but even be engaged with what you do. I think start to notice small details in your daily life. I don't know if y'all do that, but I want to challenge you today, like when you're at Elogis or the aquarium, like just start to notice like small details in your daily life that you normally wouldn't pay attention to. Admire like architecture, or I don't know, just buildings and streets and people and things like that. I don't know. I feel like the little things like these like add up, and it does make you feel more connected to the world, which would allow you to worship God differently today. So yeah, just to reiterate, learning how to listen to other people when they talk. I think sometimes what I run into is that while trying to be interesting, I think we might end up talking too much without giving others an opportunity to talk. And so I think despite our best efforts, this can come off as being kind of like self-centered. And I think like conversations should be balanced so that each person spends equal time talking and listening. Again, being engaged with what you're doing. Like I'm engaged as they're talking to me. I'm engaged with the things around me, and I'm actually giving my attention to them. So that's number 3. Number 4. 2 more. Number 4, get to know new people. I love this one. Man, expand your social circle by striking up conversations with anyone, like everyone. Literally, like, I know it's part of my job, but last year on campus, I think I met over like 400 or 500 girls. Like, it was just so, and I probably don't remember half their names, but I'm just saying, like, it was just amazing, like, to get to meet new people, like, and get to, especially if we all bear the image of God, like, we really get to encounter different people. I think it's really unique, and it's amazing. It's an amazing gift that God would give us, that we can go interact with people, like, and so I think too, like, you never know when a stranger can turn into one of your best friends. Like, think about the people in here. They were strangers at first, and now like half of y'all saying, that's my best friend. Like, that's so cool. Like, they were strangers at first. And I think, I honestly would say this. I don't know if a lot of you would say this, but I think outside of Christ, like, I don't really know if a lot of friendships that I have now would have happened. But I'm so thankful for them now. And so I think as believers, as like ambassadors of Christ, as imitators of Christ, right? Followers of Jesus, like, initiate, get to know new people. If you see somebody like interesting or different than you, like, go over and talk to them. And please hear me when I say, like, this is hard. I know it. I know a lot of y'all like, better said than done. Like, this is really hard. Thankfully, we have the Spirit. Thankfully, we have a guy. We can pray to him. We can ask him. Thankfully, we have friends that can just come with us and meet them too. Which is what I love to do. But I really do feel like you have nothing to lose. Like, our identity is wrapped up in Christ and not like the approval of others. So I really feel like the benefit is that it stretches you to come out of yourself in ways that you feel like I'm too timid, or I can't do this, or it's not worth it. I think come to find out, you actually learn more from them and probably about yourself as you do that. Another point I have up there is meet friends of friends. I literally only know Becca and Allie because of Emily. Like, that's crazy. And now all 3 of them are like some of my closest friends. And so I'm thankful. I literally think of that and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I thought I like could really say that. I feel like I've known y'all forever, but I literally only know you because I met friends of a friend. Like, and so I think for y'all too, like, get around your friends' friends. Like, hey, can I come with you to go kick it with, the squad or whatever? And so, I don't know. I just think that that's a really cool point, and it means a lot to me because I'm seeing it played out in my life. So, I think examples of this too is just Jesus. I feel like him in Luke 19, he like, Zacchaeus, if you're not familiar with that story, it's a great story. But Zacchaeus he's a chief tax collector. He like wants to see Jesus, and it's so many people in the crowd, and he all short and like stubby or whatever it is. So he like climbs up the tree and he's hiding out, trying to like post up, like, where Jesus at? I'm about to see him. And then Jesus like calls him and he's like, hey, Zacchaeus. And he stays at his house. Like, I just think that's so unique and cool. Like, Jesus staying at Zacchaeus' house. Like, I don't know. I just think like, getting to know different people. We see examples of it throughout the Bible. Jesus interacting with the Samaritan woman. Like, these things are just crazy, like initiating to people. So get to know new people. Last point, be open-minded. I think this is a really hard one for me. I'll be the first to admit I'm very prideful. So I feel like if things, that's not right, I'm like, sometimes can write people off. And I just think, I don't know. I really do think it's not right to initially like write people off, like to disregard, because then what that does is causes us to disengage. And but I think the idea here is just giving others like their right to have an opinion. Like, they're still people, they have dignity, they have worth. Like, I can't write them off. Like, I want to be open-minded to what they may say. I think this is especially helpful as we enter into the hot topics about race. And I don't know, I just think there's nothing wrong in a friendly debate every now and then. But I think like we can try to be open-minded and accept others' opinions, even if they're different from our own. And so, yeah, again, I struggle really hard with this one, being open-minded. But these are just 5 points that I had. I think conclusion, I would say, as you can tell, being interesting isn't effortless. Like, I think it really does take a lot of hard work. But I think the motivation there is that God, Jesus, was so interesting. He was so interested in us that he left the comfort of his home to come down and be a man and interact with people like us. I think that's our motivation, is that Jesus was quite the interesting man. And if we're called to be imitators of him, like, let that motivate us to be the same to others. And so, man, just think about how much growth in life and fun just comes from growing in this area of being interesting or interested. So that's all I got. I got some discussion questions. If you want to throw them up there, JC. Why would it be worth it to strive towards becoming a more interesting person? What are you interested in or passionate about? What would be the benefit in getting to know others different than you? What are topics you feel like you don't know much about but would like to grow in better understanding? How have interesting people influenced you in your life or walk with God? And lastly, what are some things you're doing today in order to become more interesting? So why don't you take 15, 20 minutes at your table, then we'll take a break and dive into hot topics on race. So break up.